You might say that the 1950s were a simpler time, a time before smartphones, the internet, and YouTube itself. It was a time where the extraordinary was still at large, a time where folk legend in some areas was still a real threat, where the rabid jaws of some beast could very well have been hiding out in the woods, prowling in the night, waiting to make its move on its victims. But moreover, it was still a time of discovery, a time where as a young boy or girl, you might have gone venturing into the wilderness to find your thrills firsthand, as opposed to getting those thrills by watching some douchebag play Fortnite, who will still attain more views than I can ever hope to achieve myself. Not that I'm bitter or anything. Anywho, the point I'm trying to make is that on September 12th of 1952, three boys would find themselves privy to a most bizarre encounter. An encounter of an extraterrestrial nature, perhaps, or something far more sinister. The Flatwoods Monster, otherwise known as the Braxton County Monster, the Phantom of the Flatwoods, or sometimes just the Green Monster, is yet another creature that comes out of West Virginian folklore. You might remember the Mothman also being from West Virginia, and all I gotta say is, West Virginia seems like the place to be if you fancy a glimpse of the supernatural. Few have heard of this horrifying looking creature, and even fewer have said to have actually glimpsed upon it. The volume of sightings is significantly lower to, say, that of the Mothman, which seems to appear all over the place, going by varied accounts, but the Flatwoods Monster appears to be exclusive to just one particular sighting, one that would be immortalised because of how compelling it really is. But what exactly is this monstrous looking thing that stands at 10 feet tall, with gangly claws and a set of bright eyes that spells nothing but death? Well, lock your doors, draw your blinds, and allow me to recount to you the tale of this terrible fiend. It was on that fateful evening of September 12th, 1952, in a small village named Flatwoods, when two brothers by the names Edward and Fred May, along with their friend Tommy Hire, were playing outside. At some point, the boys spotted what appeared to be a bright object soaring across the sky, one that would later be described as a sensational fireball. The boys weren't sure what to make of it. Perhaps it had been a shooting star, a comet, or maybe, just maybe, they were witnessing the descent of a craft as it burst into flames. Whatever it was, it came crashing down before their eyes and landed on the property of a local farmer by the name G. Bailey Fisher. Edward and Fred rushed home to their mother Kathleen, along with their friend Tommy, and told her of what they had seen. Intrigued, Kathleen accompanied the three boys, along with some of their other friends, their dog, and a National Guardsman named Eugene Lemon. There is of course safety in numbers, is there not? And what better companion could you have with you than a member of the National Guard? I mean, I know his name was Eugene Lemon, but come on, I'm trying to tell you a story about the Flatwoods Monster. It's going to get ridiculous one way or the other. So Gene and the gang went in search of where this object had crashed, and decided to get a better view of the land by ascending a hill, which offered a decent vantage. But upon the hill, it was said that the group saw a pulsing red light coming from where the farm was. Lemon aimed the flashlight in the direction of the pulsing red light, and for a moment believed to have seen a tall, man-like figure emerge from what was described as a pungent red mist. Whatever it wasn't quite human, as it was described as having a round red face that wore something like a hood in the shape of a spade, or the ace of spades. The impeccable journalism of the time, not that it's any better now, managed to conflate the eyewitness accounts with their own ideas, and we have since been left with a few differing descriptions. It's been said that the creature had a bloody face, or a red raw face, and that its eyes emitted a greenish-orange light. It was said to have a dark black or dark green body, thus where it gets its alias as the Green Monster. It was also noted that the figure had small, claw-like hands attached to its gangly limbs, and that it had been wearing some sort of clothing, given that folds could be seen across its body. The witnesses there on that day would say that the figure made a hissing sound, and that it sort of glided towards them when it realised they were watching. As soon as this happened, good old Eugene Lemon dropped his flashlight in shock of what he was seeing, and this startled the group, causing them all to run away. Some reports have said that the dog bolted before the sighting had even taken place, and that it had appeared spooked or otherwise concerned as they made their advancement. Other reports dispute there being a dog at all. Amongst those who ran, some reported feeling sick and nauseous afterwards, something they would later attribute to the sickly smelling mist that had shrouded the monster before its emergence. The local sheriff and deputy would later be called to investigate, but upon arriving, they found nothing amiss. Some reports state that marks were left in one of the fields where the crash was said to have happened, and that there was a residue of a weird gummy deposit, something many theorists would suggest indicated a UFO landing. After speaking with those involved with the sighting of this grim creature, local newspaper publisher A. Lee Stewart, who got their story, said he returned to the site with a shotgun, for he was so compelled by what he heard that he didn't entirely disbelieve it. He would say that amongst Eugene Lemon, Kathleen May, and the children, they had been the most scared people he'd ever seen, and doubted that they would all be unanimous in their conviction of the tale had it all been made up. But after the local sheriff visited the site and found nothing noteworthy, many began to laugh it off. In fact, it turned out to be pretty darn profitable. Souvenirs were made out of the Flatwoods monster as the story was broadcasted across the country, and what was once the tiny village of Flatwoods, home to just 300 people, was now the site of something dark and scary. Thousands of tourists would flock to Flatwoods in hopes of getting a look at the monster, and no doubt boosting local business and trade, which saw these same tourists purchasing said souvenirs, because who doesn't want a statue of this guy on their nightstand? I mean, nothing says come hither like a giant demonic looking monster with claws. Today, there is even a museum dedicated to the Flatwoods monster in West Virginia, and it looks like they sell t-shirts, books, toys, and some pretty cool merchandise. Look at me plugging these people like they're my sponsor. Anyway, what's important to remember is that the fear experienced by the eyewitnesses was actually totally understandable for the time period. This was a time when things like the atomic bomb were still fresh inventions. It was a time of mad scientists inventing chemical bombs capable of epic destruction, a time where rockets were first being built to send things into outer space, a time where flying saucers and sightings of the unexplainable were in abundance. Heck, there was the Cold War going on. Basically, it's no wonder that our eyewitnesses in this story were so shook by what they had seen, and no wonder that they believed what they had seen was real. It was, after all, a time where it seemed like anything could have happened. But whilst we can mostly agree that this 10-foot menace that came out of a crash site is most likely not real, what exactly did these three boys see hurtling from the sky, and what was it that Eugene Lemon saw that had him fumbling the flashlight, screaming and running away? Well, as I'm sure many of you have guessed, the bright light seen in the sky was thought to have been a meteor, and that the pulsing red light might have belonged to a hazard beacon upon an aircraft. The creature itself, well, believe it or not, is presumed to have been an owl. Now, I don't know what sort of steroid-taking owls you guys have in West Virginia, but man, they sound hardcore. If you recall back to the Mothman video, it too was thought to have been an owl, or another bird. It's been suggested there was also a psychological aspect to this too, in that whilst the witnesses may have seen an owl, due to the heightened state of anxiety, what they were seeing may have been distorted. This could have made the owl in question seem much larger than it actually was, or that it had large talons and long arms, and a questionable spade-shaped hood. This claim of it being a psychological thing more than anything else is furthermore substantiated by the fact that according to interviews, the eyewitnesses could not agree as to whether the creature had arms or not. But do you think the Flatwoods monster is real? Do you have any more stories regarding this terrible and yet elusive creature? I mean, I'd be surprised, seeing as he seemed to have peaked on his debut and then never came out again. But in any case, be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Until the next time, guys.